you're going to see a lot of jobs replaced. And I do think a lot of agencies aren't going to survive that. But I also think the ones that do are going to do so much better. So I'm super excited about the opportunity, as we all should be. As long as you know what's coming, you can plan for it, you're going to get ahead of the people that aren't paying attention.
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Podcast, a podcast for the agency owner that really wants to scale and grow and get ahead of the game. And on today's episode, I have an agency owner that's been in AI for a long time. And we're going to talk about a lot about how AI is actually doing a better job of any marketer out there right now. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Bryan, welcome to the show.
Jason, thanks very much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Bryan Trilli, serial entrepreneur. I've owned a bunch of different businesses, I think 5 different industries in 4 different states. Currently run a computer vision training company, which is AI for understanding images and videos, and also an agency that specializes in lead gen for franchises.
Awesome. And how'd you get started in the agency world?
Well, I kind of got forced into it. So I owned a brick and mortar business, and I met with some agencies, and they really didn't know anything at the time. This was in 2008 about digital marketing, quite frankly. I asked just a handful of questions, and they were like, really, we don't know. We're figuring it out as we go. And I was like, oh, all right, thanks. And so I decided to start doing it for my own business. Sold out of that business a couple of years later in 2010. Had nothing to do. Went on an epic motorcycle ride across the western states, national parks, and all that kind of stuff. And came back, and a few colleagues were like, "Hey, can you help us out with marketing?" And I was like, "Sure." And so kind of got started there.
Awesome. And let's kind of jump into it. Let's talk about, how is AI doing better than most marketers? Like, what are you seeing?
So the how is complicated. The what might be easier.
Yeah, let's talk about the what.
So I'll give you an example. So Sam Woods, I don't know if you follow him. He writes a marketing letter called The Bionic Marketer. And if you're going to follow one AI resource, Sam is the one to follow. Like, it's amazing the stuff that he's putting together. But he's developed software that he uses. It's not publicly available. He's been working on it for several years. And you put in a few prompts of your industry, your avatar, some basic things, and it spits out an entire marketing campaign. All the copy, all the ads, all the headlines, all the landing pages, completely done. And so he's been doing this for several years for a bunch of companies. He sold his agency a few years ago. And he says that 100% of the time it beats the control. Every time. Now, we've run over 2,000 split tests in my agency. If we can get like 40% of the time we beat the control, we're like ecstatic. If you were at 70%, you're doing something amazing. 100% is unbelievable. Like, it's mind-blowing that they're that good. And it's 10 minutes of work.
So as agency owners, because I get a lot of questions, people are like, will AI replace me? And I'm like, no, I think AI the people that use AI will replace you. But what are your thoughts? How, as agency owners, can we get ahead of this, or at least, use this as a really beneficial tool?
So as I mentioned, our agency's been using AI for 2 to 3 years. That's exactly when we started. Back to GPT-1, we were using that to write ads for us. And so we came up with an internal plan. And I would say the very minimum, just big picture, if you're running an agency, you need to plan over the next 12 to 24 months to double your business in terms of revenue, double your output in terms of services you provide for your customers, and not increase your prices, and not hire any new team. So it's something like a 4x output minimum. How are you going to do that? Well, essentially, you're going to have to build the technology that does the stuff that Sam did in completeness, whether that's writing the ads, developing the avatars, creating the copy, developing your value propositions. There's so many pieces to automate that you can piece them together with different tools. I mean, every single day, new AI tools are coming out that create videos for you. So instead of just sending out an email to your clients or for your clients, if you're doing email marketing, you help them put together a personalized email that comes from Jason that says, "Hey, Bryan," and that's completely automated, even though it feels like it's completely personal, right? And those types of things are all possible today. You have to figure out how you're going to integrate them into your business. And again, I think a 4X minimum with the same staff, same pricing is what every agency needs to do. Because if you're not considering that, the companies that do are going to take the lion's share of the business. So I do think you're going to see a lot of jobs replaced. And I do think a lot of agencies aren't going to survive that. But I also think the ones that do are going to do so much better. So I'm super excited about the opportunity, as we all should be. As long as you know what's coming, you can plan for it, you're going to get ahead of the people that aren't paying attention, right?
And actually, I think it's going to come even quicker than everyone realizes. I mean, a lot of times, I guess a couple months ago, everyone was going on AI, just using it as like idea generation, come up with a good title.
Right.
Now people are getting really good with it and training the hell out of it. And literally, I mean, like the other day I said, what could be a really good thing we could do in order to reach the audience better? And they're like, do a weekly newsletter, which we do, but it's kind of just a really quick summary. I was like, well, what would be really amazing in this? And they just listed this. I was like, wow, that's pretty good. And I was like, well, write me an intro to that. And it did. And then I just started taking bits and pieces. I was like, son of a bitch, like this is pretty fantastic. And that's just text.
Yeah, and there's multiple stages to it. So yesterday, the day before, my brother does most of our AI work, Greg. He just released to our team, he said, hey, we've got 500 plus standard operating procedures, how-tos and things. How do I integrate the call tracking with analytics, with our split testing tools and all that kind of stuff? So just tons of operating procedures over the last decade. And so he created a tool that reads our operating procedures, and you just type in a question, right? Like, what's the value we assign to a call, or what length of call do we credit as a full lead, right? So it's like minimum 60 seconds and hasn't called more than X number of times. And it just goes through all of our how-tos and spits out the answer. It's not indexing it like a search. It's actually finding the answer and telling you the answer. So, that's an internal tool that's going to help us be so much more efficient in going and finding those things as we need them. Video, we use a lot. So whether that's a video meeting to clients or something, you can transcribe those, you can use that information. Well, now his tool, we could feed those transcriptions into it. In any meeting we have with people, we'll be able to reference and search and look for the information and spit out the summary. I mean, all of these tools are currently possible. So it's way beyond just, hey, what do I do to write better ads? Although that's crucial. Every aspect of your business can be changed. Actually, I think I have a good example that might help frame this for people in a different industry, because I think AI is coming first for knowledge workers. So we've all been told, hey, go to college and get an education. That's the way to protect yourself and so on. But the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants, the marketers, they're the ones that are most at risk for AI. The guy that's on my roof replacing shingles, he's going to be kind of replaced by a machine at some point, but he's further down the line. So ask you a quick question. Let's say, Jason, tomorrow you wake up, you're not feeling well. Do you go to a bot and ask for help, or do you go to your doctor? Which would you prefer today?
I'd rather go to a doctor today.
All right.
But I know it's coming to a bot.
All right. So let's set that up for a second. Let's say the bot costs you $10. The doctor you have to pay out of pocket costs you $100. Do you still go to the doctor?
For right now, me, because I'm old, yes. But
right.
Let me change my answer. If I was still living in Atlanta and I had to put up with that stupid ass traffic, I would go to a bot.
All right, fair enough. So today, where you are in Colorado, would you pay $500 more? So $500 for the doctor.
I'd probably go to the bot. I'm cheap.
All right. So there is a point, and I find this with those people, that it's probably 20 to 50 times, let's say at the minimum, that you would say, okay, it's going to drop significantly. All right. So you go to your doctor. Do you meet with a doctor, or do you meet with a nurse practitioner?
I like to meet with the doctor, but the nurse practitioner comes in first.
Okay. So maybe you get to meet with the doctor or not. When you're at the doctor's office, do they spend, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes asking about your mental, emotional well-being, what stresses are in your life, what might be affecting your
No.
health, things that are, do they ask about things that are, like health-wise? So what's your workout schedule look like? What kind of foods are you eating? Hey, how much time are you spending in front of screens? What kind of social media interactions do you have? All these things that we know affect your health. Do they do that?
Nope.
Do they look at heart rate variability, heart rate, resting heart rate, sleep patterns, respiratory rates, any of these things for you personally, for Jason, over the last year and the trends of how those have changed?
No.
So I don't know if you're familiar with these. I have an Aura ring on my finger. You see that? So Aura, so you have your own biometrics. Aura has, I think, taken this further than anyone else. They've run all kinds of studies where they can claim, and they don't put this in their marketing yet, but I know people that are in the studies because they do it with the military, where they can claim they can identify something like 4,000 illnesses and diseases. So they know you're pregnant before any test can tell you. They know you have COVID before any test can tell you. They haven't yet integrated that into their tech, but the research is getting there. And it's some point, they're going to tell you you're sick before you know you're sick. And it's going to know you personally, that your heart rate's up or your skin temperature's higher or whatever. And it's going to make recommendations. And then it's going to order the medicine for you. And then the medicine's going to come to you and it's going to notice, how does your body react to that? The next time it's going to say, hey, you know what? Tylenol didn't work as good for you, Jason. You need to take Advil. And so all of this technology currently exists. It's just a matter of time before it gets all put together. And that's going to be somewhere between 1/10 to 1/100th the cost of going to a doctor and scheduling an appointment and having the facilities and all that kind of stuff, right? So if that's what's happening with doctors, what do you think is happening with marketers, right? If we actually break down all of those pieces, accountants, lawyers, I mean, we can do this for any industry. It's unbelievable at some level what is coming and even what's here. It's just a matter of time before people catch on and realize it. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. So, but how can us as agency owners get ahead of it?
Well, one, you have to be aware of everything, like as much as you can. So again, the Sam Wood stuff, I think we put out Bionic Marketing is amazing, but even things he put out like 3 months ago no longer work. Like you can't go to his old stuff and be like, oh, wait a sec, let me implement it. Like it just ChatGPT's adapted and it doesn't work. And you have to realize, I think, putting your mind in those sort of thought experiments. So I just did one for the medical field. Well, everything you do in your business, have a client meeting. And what do we do in that client meeting? And what questions do we ask? And what numbers do they give us? Okay, so what's the equivalent of the Aura ring or the biometric to my agency? How can I get ahead of that? What data we'd look at? So I'll give you another example of what we're doing. We have a reporting software that generates reports for our clients. Well, we've now converted all the data from the reporting software into a CSV file. That CSV file is then sent to ChatGPT with a series of standard questions that we ask it. That ChatGPT interface then gives us answers and interprets the data. Because your clients don't want to just know what the leads generated or the cost per lead or whatever. They want to know, what do I do with this information? Right? How does that compare to last year at the same time if it's a seasonal business? How does it compare to last month? Is Facebook working better? If it is working better, what part of the ads on Facebook are working better? All of that is really what the data is about. And guess what? ChatGPT can now give us some of those insights, and it's only getting better. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. So you really just got to kind of look at, how I look at it is, look, one of the things, here, you tell me what you would do with this. So whenever anybody engages with us and joins our mastermind or buys anything from us, the thank you page is always ask 2 questions. What are you most excited about learning? And why did you join or why did you buy? Mm-hmm. And so we have tens of thousands of responses from this over the past, years. So what would you do with that? Would you create a chat, load that CSV file in there? What would you do?
So those are the only 2 questions you have. Do you have any other data like demographic or?
We have that too. Yeah, where they're located, the size of the agency, like we have all that as well.
Yeah, so I would kind of look at a few different data points beyond that and try and understand, are there different avatars? In other words, if I'm a sub $250,000 a year agency, are my answers to that different but consistently different to one that's a 5 million plus agency, right? Because the beauty of AI is that you can talk to all these people individually much better. And so if you find out, okay, we have X number of groups and there's 3 or 4 or 5 different avatars, and maybe it's revenue based, but maybe it's some other factor, maybe it's burnout based and things like that. Now, when I go and develop my email copy or my marketing copy, it's talking to a very specific person. It's not just the average of all of your data. And so you could put that into ChatGPT and literally ask him, like, here's my data. What should I do with this? How do I use it? I mean, the better question that you form. So if you give it an understanding of what's the data, what does it exist, how can you benefit from it, what are you trying to do with it? I'm trying to do an email campaign or whatever. It will help you improve that. Now, ultimately, you're going to want some sort of direct connection and feed so that ChatGPT is automating the feedback and continually updating that for you, right? And if you're doing that for yourself, you need to be doing that for your clients as well. And this starts to go into that, hey, you need to double what you offer to clients without charging anymore, because this stuff is continually becoming available. And some of it's just add-ons to ChatGPT. Like the code's already ready for you. I mean, take it a step further, ChatGPT will write the code for you. It's not great in all languages. It definitely varies, from the most popular programming languages to the more rare ones, but it's getting better. And so I think most companies are going to become, essentially, if you want to do really well, you got to have your own tech stack. That does not mean I'm using off-the-shelf stuff. It means I'm going to connect all these AIs in a way that's unique, and I'm going to have first-party data, which is what you just described. Yep. And the data is probably the more important because it's harder to get. Nobody else, I don't have that data on your customer list, right? And I don't really have a way, I can't go to Facebook and get that. So understanding how to use that and value it is huge, because that is now becoming your moat. That's what makes you unique, that you can talk to those people in ways because they've told you things that they haven't told anyone else.
It's so fascinating. Like, we haven't even thought about, like, I guarantee you in 2 months, things will be so much further along and we'll be like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
like months will seem like years.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how quickly it goes. Like I said, when my team puts out things, because I'm not really in the day-to-day much anymore, I'm just like, how the heck did they even do that? Like, because they're doing CSVs that are talking to GPT and they're replacing our recommendation system that had a human review for the last 10 years. Like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Well, I just start thinking about all the data that Google and Amazon have on us, of how scary, like,
Yeah.
It's even like, I will talk in my house about a certain product and then I will see a damn ad like in an hour.
Yeah.
And that was last year.
Yeah, it's dystopian to some degree, right? Of what they know, what they can do with it. And you can go down all kinds of rabbit holes with that. I think anybody that's listening to this is in the marketing world is already familiar with that level. But the scary part becomes, so right now you can replicate anyone. There's enough data here in this discussion for anybody to replicate you or me, voice, face, video, audio, whatever, and make anything. So I have a friend, he works security at a bank. They already have instances where people have lost thousands of dollars because a loved one called and said, hey, I'm broken down and I need a credit card for the tow guy. And it's completely a scammer. Like, it's not real. And they give them the credit card and they rent it for thousands of dollars and, money's gone. And so that gets real scary when you think of political ads and what's, going to happen during elections. I mean, how do you even know it's real anymore? Right. Yeah. And that's all in existence today. Like, that's not future by any means.
Yeah. Then you got kind of what the writers and the actors strike. I don't know if that's still going on. I hardly watch the news, but they're like, hey, like, I can create an AI bot of Brad Pitt and then he could host the Smart Agency podcast. Like, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, exactly. And there isn't real clear, because it's technically not Brad Pitt. So are you violating any copyrights, or like the laws aren't even up to date with that, and they might not be for a while. It's going to be hard to say. So one of the things we do talk about our agency is, in a world like that, what does that look like for us? Like, why does somebody come and work with our agency versus someone else's? And at its core, it's truth, right? Like, they want to know what's real, and they always have. It's, I don't want to just know whatever fluff numbers you're going to show me. I want to know what's really going on in my business and how that can affect me, what decisions I can make. But in this dystopian world where things can be fake, that becomes even that much more crucial.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic, Bryan. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
The one point I would say is there's a lot of talk. There's a book that was written in 2005 called The Singularity is Near. And the idea is that essentially AI is going to wake up. It's going to be like Terminator, and it's going to develop a conscience, and it's going to do whatever it wants to do. And it's hard to imagine that could be a good scenario. The good part is that's not going to happen. We have good scientific reasons for understanding that that's just not how it works. And I don't think we have time to get into them now, but if that's something that intrigues people, my point is there are things that humans can do when it comes down to problem solving in a way that is defined by our own goals. So what do I mean by that? Like, we have a will to decide what's right and wrong, and AI doesn't. If everybody today stops talking to ChatGPT, it doesn't go in a corner and cry. Like, it just stops working. Now, we're not that way. We have a need to connect and all these other things. There's no point in which AI, we have any understanding where AI is going to just wake up and start doing its own thing without a human driving it and giving its goals. And so if you're interested in that, we're writing a book called AI Will Prove God Exists, and it dives into that in length. But I think it's important to know that it can't do everything, and you need to know where that line is.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, everyone go check out the book, and thanks so much for coming on the show, Bryan. And then I created this really cool tool I want all of you guys to go check out. A lot of us struggle with closing deals at a slow speed or closing at a low percentage. If you guys want to close at a higher percentage, you want to close the deal quicker and also be able to charge more because now you've built up value, I want all of you to go to agencymastery360.com/convert. We have a free masterclass for you on really kind of building the sales team, creating the right offering ladder, creating the foot in the door, all of that. Make sure you go to agencymastery360.com/convert. And until next time, have a swank day.